Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Pemko part number 2750A is what this is. This is a very wide saddle threshold is what we call this. Let's pull this end of it out of the packaging so that we can get a little closer look at the aluminum. And where would you use this? Well, you would use it wherever you needed a saddle threshold, meaning the flooring condition was such that that a different profile would not be called for. And saddle thresholds usually go under doors is where they go, meaning thresholds go under doors, of course, but extrusions, aluminum extrusions that would be classified under weather stripping would be used in other applications, transitions, as well between two disparate floor surfaces, ramps, things of that nature. But a saddle would be used when you have a flat floor surface and that you just need something underneath the door. And the 2750A could very likely be a good option for you. Now, why would you want one so wide? Well, very likely that you have a very deep frame. If you have a 8 3/4 deep frame or a 16-inch deep hollow metal frame or anything in between, you might want something, that would go along with that. You might have a 5 3/4 frame, or a typical hollow metal jam depth, and you're going to cope that frame profile literally out of this wider saddle. This client ordered this at 48-inch, so probably not coping it. But if someone had a 3-foot door and they ordered this 40-inch, and I knew it was a 3-foot door, I knew that they were going to cope the frame into the threshold so that the outside edge can run long and protect the face of the opening. It's having mitered returns is pretty typical, and I know it's considered best practice where you'd have a mitered return so that you'd protect the face of that frame. So that's pretty typical. You don't see that often, but it's considered best practice. So it could be where this client is using this really wide threshold. This is 10-inch wide, speaking of the width, and it is also 1/4 inch tall. Hopefully you can see that. 10-inch wide, 1/4 inch rise. Not going to see too much of that, but it's 1/4 inch is the overall height. Most definitely, and I'll show it to you a little bit more in detail than I'm going to put it down. By the way, it weighs 6.2 pound or 0.12 pound per inch is what this weighs. Okay, an aluminum extrusion. One nice feature, since I'm holding it up, is these ribbed sort of edges here that will have a ability to, when you install the threshold and you anchor it down, it will help resist lateral movement. It's not a bump-up threshold, so there's no door, making contact with it, but foot traffic obviously, has a certain directional force associated with it. So those ridges will allow you to run a bead of caulk down there and help keep that from moving side to side. So suffice it to say, Pemko makes a full complement of saddle thresholds that are very narrow to very wide, a 1/4 inch tall, 1/2 inch tall, other sizes as well. Now, in terms of the height, 1/4 inch is what this is, as we were saying. 1/2 inch is very typical, and other sizes, as I was saying. Handicap compliant is certainly assured with this threshold. It would be as if it was 1/2 inch tall as well. It's really that you can't exceed a 1/2 inch, and that your rise over run relationship can't exceed a 2-to-1 relationship. And certainly this graceful edge on the front end does not exceed that rise over run formula. Okay, I've also had people order these thresholds where they were just a mid-story tower building, 40 stories. They've got some concrete, and there's an expansion joint that's there. And sure enough, that expansion joint does its job, allowing that to happen. But they've wanted to install a threshold like this over that. And I've had people do that in the past. I can't really attest to how well that works when you've screwed it down to that concrete that moves ever so slightly. So I don't, I know that it's been used in that application. I could see it if you securely screwed it down to just one of the two portions and maybe epoxied it down on the other edge, if you follow me, so that, well, it really wouldn't work either. If you were, you can't epoxy it. You've got to leave one edge float so it floats. Maybe that's what they were doing. I'd be tempted to be concerned about that. So I didn't understand how they were going to prevent that threshold from the fasteners from giving it trouble. But where you use this is probably going to be where you have a deep frame, is likely number one. 5 3/4 very common. 8 3/4 very common. Interior construction, that'd be 4 3/4, not uncommon. But 6, 7 3/4, those are common. You can do jobs where the jam depth is anything. I mean, I've done them as large as, well, for sure 16-inch, if not 19-inch. So you can do very wide frames, and with that goes a really wide threshold. In fact, I think it was closer to 20-inch, because I remember the threshold that we custom manufactured was about 18-inch wide is what it was. So almost 2 of these that were, modified, ripped, welded together, braces placed underneath. Pemko can do all that fabrication, by the way. Let's switch now to the screen view, and let's take a closer look at the supporting documentation. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Here is indeed the item that we are looking at, 2750. We scroll down and we'll see the 10-inch by 1/4-inch dimension. Available in lots of different lengths. We have these listed in the website in 2-foot to 8-foot lengths currently. By the time you're seeing this video, they'll likely be listed in much longer lengths as well. You can have any length that you want, probably up to about 16.5 feet. But be mindful, when you get longer than 3-foot length, the cost to ship, because of the surcharges from the carriers, seem to accelerate at a non-linear sort of progression. The longer you want to ship, the more it gets, the more costly it gets. Okay. There's a printable cut sheet here. This is just going to be a duplication of what we already are really looking at. There is extended description information that's here. Let's take a look at that. Saddle threshold. All right, okay. Saddle thresholds are symmetrical shapes designed to span a given area, usually under a door. Sure. If you want to do an asymmetrical shape, use an elevator on one side. And an elevator is simply a piece of aluminum that will sit underneath one side. So if you have a flooring condition that's, kind of like that, you could use your threshold, but then underneath this, place an elevator. Is how that would work. If this is a 1/4-inch and this is a 1/4-inch here, you could use a 1/4-inch elevator. If this is 1/2 inch, you could use a 1/2 inch elevator to be 3/4-inch overall height. But that's the elevator concept right there. Not uncommon at all. You'll see this type of application in residential condo buildings where they have a really weird interior, not weird, but just a flooring condition within the space that is substantially higher than what was done in the hallway. They've added, sound attenuating material, and then they've put underlayment, and then they've put hardwood, so that you can really build up to where it's quite tall. So on the outside, you need this sort of elevator. And yeah, you get into a problem where it's handicap compliant, but this is how that's going to be. So that would be an elevator. Now, this is listed in the site in different finishes. Aluminum, A for mill aluminum, D for dark bronze, and then G for gold. All those are aluminum base material, A, D, and G. There's a link below this video here to the manufacturer's page. When we click on that, we can pull up not only all of the Pemko items that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation as seen here, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. So let's allow that catalog to load, and then we are going to do a find function on our keyboard, Control F for 2750, 2750, and we're going to get, the point of this exercise is to get to the section where you'll see this, and the point is, in this section are all of the other sizes of saddle thresholds that are 1/4-inch. 10 is probably going to be, 10 is the maximum that they'll do in a single extrusion. But, as I had mentioned earlier, Pemko can do fabricating. They can also take half saddles and put them together like you see here. So they can take these 2746, this and this are a 2746, and they can weld them together. So I believe 6 inch is the widest half saddle that they have, which means 12 inch would be the greatest, but they can do other things. I won't dive into what they can do, but they can take just this portion here and then put braces underneath it and make it whatever size you want. Half-inch tall saddles as well. And as you continue to scroll through, you'll see the different variants of thresholds. And yes, the 2746 is the widest that they do in a 1/4 inch tall half saddle. So it's going to be like 12 1/8 when it's all said and done. There you go. Pretty handy. Here's an example of that concept of an irregular surface. But let me show you the elevator since they've mentioned it. There we go. Here's some elevators. So there you go. They really come in handy at times when you need to mitigate some sort of unusual floor condition. We don't use them often, but when we do, it does solve that problem. And that condo example earlier where there was a drastically uneven floor surface is an actual example of where we were able to use a threshold, an elevator, and then another piece that it all butt up to so that it looked really like it meant to be there. Worked out pretty well. Okay. Now, the name Pemko is synonymous with weather stripping, and as you can see with 322 pages in their most current catalog, while it's not all weather stripping, they have a very broad offering of weather stripping products, so be sure to check that all out. Okay, let's wrap up this video on camera. In conclusion, nice quality product. It's just a piece of extruded aluminum. You know, you can't really get that wrong, I suppose. This is going to include fasteners. They look like they're about a number 10 by 1.25 inch. Oh, they came out. Let's take a closer look. Maybe a number 10 by 1.25 inch. These are a little bit shorter, maybe 10 by 1. Flathead anchors, and we'll get those put back in there so they end up getting to the client where they have to go to. The reason you look at Pemko is because of how broad of a spectrum of available products. If you're looking for solutions to problems, and you're looking for a lot of different components that you can play with in terms of custom fabrication, Pemko is a great choice. There's no question about it. No one has more in a single book than they do, as I had said earlier. Any questions on the 2750 in an A or any other, excuse me, let me back up. If you have need for a custom length, by all means, let us know by ordering the next longest piece or pieces and indicate in the comment field the net length that you'd like for us to ship the material. We'll oblige that. The reasoning is you don't want to take this, it's expensive, this material. You don't want to order something longer than necessary and then have to cut it. It could just simply be literally a waste of money. You may not have a saw that will cut 10 inch like the factory can. You won't get the same straight edge if you're trimming it in the field. Also, if you were to order a 60 inch knowing that you're going to cut it back to 54 inch, well, you might have trouble with those dimples that are there. So you might have to not only cut it, but then drill new holes, then they're not symmetrical, things of that nature. Those would all be reasons why you would want perhaps us to have the factory cut that to length. Indicate it in the comment field of the next longest piece, and we'll be sure to transfer that information off to the factory. Any questions on the 2750A or any other Pemko product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.